Hey, it's Rob Dial Jr. And today I want to tell you something most people never want to hear. Your life isn't waiting for motivation, it's waiting for organization. Because your potential isn't unlocked by chance, it's unlocked by structure. If you feel overwhelmed, stuck, or lost, good. That means you're finally ready to take control. Today, we're not talking about cleaning your room. We're talking about cleaning your mind, your habits, your time, and your identity. Let's build the version of you that doesn't live in chaos, but creates clarity. When you finally make the decision to force yourself to organize your life, the very first shift you must make is creating non-negotiable daily structure. Structure isn't about being rigid or robotic. It's about creating a rhythm that frees you, instead of a life that constantly drains you. Most people wake up and let the world decide their day for them. They wake up into chaos, into noise, into the demands of other people. And then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, behind, or unfocused. But when you choose structure, you choose to take back the steering wheel of your life. Think about this. Every time you wing your day, you train your brain to live in reaction. You're constantly responding, never leading. But when you design your day with intention, the brain begins to relax. It understands what comes next. You reduce decision fatigue, you lower anxiety, and you create momentum without even trying. Structure becomes the foundation where your discipline grows automatically. You start simple, not by planning every minute like a machine, but by deciding on a few non-negotiable anchors that will define the kind of person you're becoming. These anchors could be a morning routine, a learning practice, a set time for work, or an evening reset. What matters is that these moments are not optional. They don't rely on motivation. They don't depend on how you feel. They happen because you're committed to the identity you're trying to build. And here's what most people misunderstand. Structure is not about becoming perfect. It's about creating a space where progress can finally happen. When your life is unorganized, your energy leaks everywhere. Small tasks feel heavy. Tiny decisions feel overwhelming. But when you build structure, you eliminate clutter from your path. Instead of spending your day figuring out what to do, you simply do what you've already decided. You start to feel a sense of momentum, not because life magically got easier, but because you remove the daily friction that used to slow you down. You create a morning that sets your mind, a routine that sharpens your focus, and habits that prevent chaos from creeping back into your life. And slowly, you start to notice a new version of yourself emerging. A version that feels steady, clear, grounded, capable. One of the most powerful effects of structure is how it changes your emotional state. When your days are consistent, your emotions become more stable. You stop feeling like you're constantly behind. You stop drowning in unmade decisions. You stop carrying the stress of unfinished tasks. Structure gives you control. It gives you clarity. It gives you breathing room. And the truth is, your brain loves predictability. It thrives on routine. When you give it consistent signals, it rewards you with more energy, more focus, more discipline. But when your life is unpredictable and chaotic, your brain stays on alert. It wastes energy trying to organize things on the fly. That's why disorganized people always feel tired. Not because they do too much, but because they think too much. Imagine waking up and knowing exactly how your day will begin. Imagine removing the anxiety of trying to figure out where to start. Imagine stepping into the day with confidence instead of confusion. That's what structure gives you. It gives you power back. But here's the part many people avoid. Building structure requires you to confront your excuses. It forces you to admit where you've been inconsistent. It makes you face the uncomfortable truth that your life feels chaotic, not because of your circumstances, but because of your choices. And that realization is painful, but it's also liberating. Because once you see that you are the problem, you finally understand that you are also the solution. You don't wait for the perfect day. You don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for your mind to calm down first. You organize your life so your mind can calm down. You commit to structure because you're tired of living in survival mode. You want to shift from reacting to creating. And the moment you take that step, even if it's small, your entire life begins to shift with it. You become someone who follows through, someone who respects their time, someone who lives with clarity instead of chaos, someone who doesn't just hope for a better life, but builds it piece by piece, routine by routine, decision by decision. And all of it starts with one simple choice. Create the structure that supports the life you say you want. The second step in forcing yourself to organize your life is learning how to remove the mental clutter that steals your power. Most people think their stress comes from big problems, major responsibilities, or the weight of their goal. But the truth is, the real drain comes from the hundreds of tiny, unmade decisions sitting in the back of your mind. The clutter on your desk, the notifications you haven't checked, the tasks you've delayed, the promises you made to yourself but never followed through on. All of it silently chips away at your mental bandwidth. You don't realize how heavy it is until you finally start clearing it out. And when you do, you feel something you may not have felt in a long time: mental space, breathing room, the ability to actually think. When your life is disorganized, your brain is constantly in problem-solving mode, scanning for what you forgot, what you missed, what you still need to do. That's why you feel overwhelmed even on days when you didn't do much. Your mind is overloaded, not because you have too much going on, but because you haven't cleared the things that don't belong there. Physical clutter creates mental noise. Every time you walk past something out of place, something unfinished, something chaotic, a piece of your focus gets pulled with it. And when your environment is messy, your mind becomes messy. You start losing clarity. You start losing direction. You start living in a constant state of low-level stress. You can't grow in an environment where your mind is constantly fighting distractions. But here's the truth. Decluttering isn't just about cleaning something. It's about reclaiming the energy you're losing without even realizing. You're not organizing your life for the sake of tidiness. You're organizing your life so you can finally show up at your full capacity. Because clutter isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, digital, relational. Every layer of your life holds weight, and if you don't intentionally clear it, it stacks up until you feel like you're carrying a mountain. Start by clearing the physical clutter because it gives you an instant win. Cleaning your space cleans your mind. Your environment reflects what's happening inside of you. When you walk into a room that feels ordered and intentional, your brain naturally feels safer, calm, grounded. Suddenly you have more focus, not because you got smarter, but because the noise around you stopped stealing your attention. Then move into the digital clutter. The endless notifications, the apps you don't use, the open tabs that represent unfinished thoughts. Every digital distraction is a mental leak. You don't need to be available to everyone at every moment. You don't need to respond instantly. You don't need to drown your brain in constant stimulation. When you reduce the digital noise, you create the mental silence required for deeper thinking, better decisions, and clearer priorities. But the most powerful decluttering happens internally. The emotional clutter. The thoughts you replay over and over. The guilt from things you haven't done. The fear of disappointing people. The stories you tell yourself about your past or your limitations. You can clean your room and delete your apps, but if you don't clear the internal weight you've been carrying, you'll still feel scattered, because the real clutter is the emotional baggage you haven't dealt with yet. So you begin asking yourself the real questions. What am I holding on to that I no longer need? What am I worrying about that I cannot control? What conversations have I avoided that would free me? What patterns from my past am I still dragging into my present? When you confront these questions honestly, you unlock a different level of freedom. You remove the internal obstacles that have been blocking your clarity. You stop carrying emotions that don't serve you. You stop letting old stories shape your new identity. You make space inside yourself for a new direction, a new mindset, a new version of you. And there's something powerful that happens when you clean the clutter out of your mind. You start to notice what truly matters and what truly drains you. You begin to see which habits elevate you and which ones pull you down. You become aware of who brings clarity into your life and who brings chaos. You start to understand your own patterns, your triggers, your distractions. And that awareness gives you power. Because clarity isn't something you magically gain. It's something you create. It's something you protect. It's something you fight for by removing everything that dulls your focus and steals your energy. When you choose to eliminate the clutter, you're choosing to reclaim your attention, your presence, your peace. You're choosing to create a life where your mind isn't overwhelmed, but aligned. And when your mind is clear, your life becomes clear. Clear the clutter, and you clear your power. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they try to organize their life is thinking the solution is to simply do more. More tasks, more routines, more lists, more reminders. But real transformation doesn't come from stacking more actions onto an already cluttered identity. It comes from shifting the identity behind the actions. Because you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. And your habits are built on who you believe you are. When you try to organize your life from a place of, I need to get my life together, you stay stuck in the mindset of someone who feels behind, overwhelmed, or lost. But when you shift to a type of person who keeps life in order, everything changes. You're no longer chasing discipline. You are becoming the person who naturally lives with discipline. You stop forcing habits, and you start living from a new identity. Think about it. A runner doesn't have to debate whether they should run today. A writer doesn't have to negotiate with themselves about whether to write. A disciplined person doesn't question routines. Their identity already decides for them. This is what makes identity-based habits so powerful. They remove the daily battle. They eliminate the emotional drama. They create automatic alignment. Your life becomes organized not because you added more tasks, but because you started acting from a new version of yourself. But this shift doesn't happen instantly. It starts with small, simple promises you make to yourself and keep. Every time you follow through, you're casting a vote for your new identity. Every time you don't, you reinforce the old one. That's why inconsistency feels so painful. Not just because you didn't do the thing, but because you lost trust with yourself. And an unorganized life is often just the result of broken self-trust. So you rebuild it, one action at a time. You tell yourself, I am becoming someone who respects their time. I am becoming someone who finishes what they start. I am becoming someone who follows through. And then you prove it with behavior, small behavior, consistent behavior, not perfection. Organizing your life isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the things that reinforce the identity you want to live with. This is where simplicity becomes your ally. People often make their systems too complicated. Long morning routines, detailed habit trackers, overwhelming schedules. But if your system is too heavy, you won't stick to it. Identity thrives in environments that are simple, repeatable, and realistic. A 5-minute routine done daily will transform you more than a 1-hour routine you can't maintain. Consistency is what shapes identity, not intensity. And the more you show up, the more your identity solidifies. You start to feel different about yourself. You begin to trust yourself again. That self-trust becomes the fuel behind your discipline. And that discipline becomes the foundation of your organization. Eventually, you reach a point where the habit isn't something you do, it's who you are. You clean up your space because that's what the future you would do. You organize your calendar because that's how the focused you lives. You follow routines because your best self depends on them. You stop seeing organization as a chore and start seeing it as a part of your character. And when something becomes part of your character, it becomes effort. This identity shift also protects you from distraction. When you know who you are becoming, it becomes easier to say no to things that don't align with that version of you. You stop wasting time on habits, people, environments, and choices that don't support your growth. You stop settling for the old patterns that kept your life in chaos. Instead, you make decisions based on your future, not your past. Identity is the filter for everything. Your energy, your habits, your discipline, your organization. When you change that, you change the entire system of your life. You begin to walk through your days with a sense of clarity and personal responsibility. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop relying on willpower. You become someone who simply lives with intention. And the beautiful part is that once the identity is established, the habits become natural. The structure becomes natural. The organization becomes natural. You're no longer pretending, you're embodying. You're no longer trying, you're aligning. You're not forcing yourself to organize your life anymore. You're organizing it because it matches the person you're becoming. This is how you create a life that doesn't fall apart every time you get tired, busy, or stressed. This is how you build a version of yourself that doesn't collapse under pressure, but rises because the foundation is strong. Identity makes organization sustainable. Identity makes discipline automatic. Identity makes growth inevitable. Become the person who lives organized, and your life will follow. The final step in organizing your life is learning to audit your environment, your time, and the people around you. Because no matter how disciplined you become, no matter how strong your identity gets, your surroundings will always influence the outcome. You can have incredible habits, but if you're living in an environment that constantly pulls you backward, eventually it will wear you down. You can have big goals, but if your time is being stolen by things that don't matter, you will never reach them. You can have a powerful vision for your future, but if the people in your life don't respect that vision, you will feel like you're running uphill every single day. Your environment is shaping you, whether you realize it or not. Every sound, every distraction, every atmosphere you place yourself in either fuels your focus or drains it. When your environment is chaotic, your mind becomes chaotic. When your environment is uninspiring, your effort weakens. But when your environment is aligned with your goals, everything becomes easier. You don't have to fight for clarity, you walk into it. You don't have to struggle for motivation, it's all around you. Something as simple as a clean desk, a quiet space, a structured system for your belongings. These small details create huge shifts in how you show up. Your environment should be designed to support the version of you that you're becoming, not the version you're trying to leave behind. If you want to be more focused, create a space that eliminates distraction. If you want to be more disciplined, organize your surroundings so the right choices become the easy choices. And if your environment doesn't reflect your goals, it's your responsibility to change it. Not someday, not when you feel like it, but now. Then there's your time. One of the most powerful realizations people have when they begin organizing their life is that they are not short on hours. They are short on boundaries. Time isn't slipping away from you, you're giving it away. Every time you say yes to something you didn't want to do, you lose time. Every time you let someone interrupt your focus, you lose time. Every time you scroll, procrastinate, avoid, or delay, you lose time. And time is not forgiving. Once it's gone, it's gone. You have to get honest about where your time is leaking. You have to become aware of the hours you let slip through your fingers because of habits that don't elevate you. And you have to create boundaries, not walls, not excuses, but real commitments that protect your energy. When you begin to treat your time like something valuable, something sacred, something irreplaceable, everything starts to shift. You show up with more intention. You waste less. You procrastinate less. You prioritize what matters. And you stop feeling overwhelmed because you're no longer drowning in commitments you never wanted in the first place. But perhaps the most significant audit you'll ever do is the one involving people. The people in your life either fuel your discipline or fight it. They either support your growth or sabotage it. They either inspire you or distract you. Most people never reach their full potential because they are surrounded by voices that shrink them, habits that influence them, and relationships that pull them backward. You don't have to cut people off. You don't have to create drama. But you do have to become aware of who adds to your life and who takes from it. Some people drain you because they live in chaos, and chaos is contagious. Some people keep you stuck because they only know the old version of you. Some people resist your growth because they fear what your evolution means for them. Organizing your life means organizing your relationships. It means choosing to spend more time around people who challenge you, who support your vision, who want to see you rise. And it means spending less time with people who constantly pull you into drama, distraction, or negativity. Your life becomes dramatically easier when your environment, your time, and your relationships all point in the same direction. When everything around you supports the person you're becoming, momentum becomes your natural state. Progress stops feeling like a struggle. Discipline stops feeling like a fight. You create a life where your surroundings elevate you instead of draining you. And when you finally align these three areas, your space, your time, and your relationships, you remove the invisible barriers that have been holding you back for years. You stop living reactively. You stop basing your choices on convenience or pressure. You start building your life with intention, clarity, and purpose. Because the truth is simple. A powerful life is built by designing a powerful environment. When you finally step back and look at everything you've built through these 4 shifts, you realize something powerful. Organizing your life was never really about color-coding calendars or stacking routines. It was about reclaiming your power. It was about proving to yourself that you are capable of more than chaos, more than distraction, more than survival mode. It was about stepping into a version of yourself that lives with intention instead of impulse, alignment instead of overwhelm, clarity instead of confusion. You created structure so your mind could breathe. You cleared the clutter so your energy could rise. You shifted your identity so your habits could finally make sense. You audited your world so your environment could support who you are becoming. And now, you're standing in a life that you didn't stumble into. You designed it. A life where your time has meaning, your space reflects your values, your habits reflect your identity, and your direction reflects your vision. You are no longer living on autopilot. You are no longer waiting for motivation. You are no longer drowning in things that don't matter. You have built a life that works and with you, not against you. And here's the truth most people never understand. An organized life is not a restrictive life. It is a liberated one. It gives you room to grow, room to dream, room to rise. It turns discipline into freedom and turns structure into strength. It creates a foundation that can carry you through setbacks, distractions, and storms. This is the moment where you stop hoping for change and start owning the life you've created. This is where you stop being the person who tries and become the person who follows through. This is where you stop surviving and start leading your life with clarity and purpose. Because from this point forward, you know exactly what to do. You don't wait. You don't negotiate. You don't shrink back. You choose alignment. You choose discipline. You choose the version of you that's been waiting to come alive. And it all begins with one simple, powerful decision. Force yourself to organize your life until the life you want becomes the life you live.